Have you guys met my friend Lainey? Hey, you. You may have seen her with her amazing humans, Judy Rive McGuire and Brian McGuire, at Pause for Reading, the program at the Upper St. Clair Library, where readers get to sound out words with a non-judgmental, rather adorable listener. Perhaps you met her at the Sally and Howard Levin Clubhouse for adults whose lives have been disrupted by mental illness. Most likely, though, you have encountered Lainey at the Ralph Sugar Chapel, the Jewish funeral home here in Pittsburgh. A trained therapy dog, Lainey learned doggy manners to make her behavior predictable, mostly, so that she can be a resource to those who are navigating grief. When a child breaks down from the pain of loss, Lainey is there to put a head in their lap. When adults need a respite from the crushing emotions of the moment, Lainey is by their side. Gallons of tears have been cried into this dog's beautiful fur. While she looks like a stuffed animal with hypoallergenic, luscious locks, she looks more like a teddy bear than her wild ancient ancestors. Lainey's true effectiveness comes from her sentience. She knows when you are being playful and when you need emotional support. She can experience positive and negative feelings, pleasure and pain, joy and distress right alongside us. And I don't think that it's an overstatement to say that Lainey understands and can respond to human beings better than some human beings themselves can. This makes her an invaluable support for those who are grieving loss and one of our greatest teachers as we try to respond to the challenges of the 21st century. Lainey doesn't need to offer us a philosophical treatise to teach us about Judaism and artificial intelligence. She just has to sit there being her adorable self. Before I go any further, I want to say thank you to Judy and to Brian, and indeed all of the temple members, Sandy, Holly, and many more, who have trained and brought their therapy dogs into the greater community. Judy, your work as the Director of Aftercare Services and Community Outreach at Ralph Sugar Chapel, with and without Lainey, brings so much comfort to people in otherwise impossible times. And on behalf of a grateful community, I want to say thank you. That many animals are sentient beings capable of emotion in addition to the necessary processes of living is no longer up for scientific debate. Dogs, cats, cows, chimpanzees, any pet owner or farmer or animal lover will tell you that this has been settled for centuries, if not millennia. They would each laugh or rage at the anthropocentrism inherent in philosopher René Descartes' now categorically false assertion that animals are like automata. They cannot reason or feel pain, he said. Of course they can, even if too many people, myself shamefully included, still dismiss animal emotions as being significantly different than ours and thus of less importance. Better, perhaps, that we should stop comparing animals to our own abilities and adopt the now 230-year-old teaching of English philosopher Jeremy Bentham. The question, he wrote, is not can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? For Bentham, that animals are sentient and the subject to the will of human beings means they should receive protections under the law. And some 200 years later, his ideas are beginning to find some traction. In the 2007 Lisbon Treaty, the European Union, quote, mandated full regard to the welfare requirements of animals based on their sentience. And in 2022, the United Kingdom passed the Animal Welfare Sentience Act to ensure government policy recognizes animals as thinking, feeling, perceiving beings that should be treated as such. While this protection is piecemeal and state level here in the United States, Rajesh Reddy from the Lewis and Clark Law School suggests this trend toward greater legal protections represents a shift in our fundamental relationship with animals for the first time, his words, not mine, putting the horse before Descartes. But if the scientific community, the philosophical community, and indeed the heart of everyone in this room who has come into contact with Lainey or with their own pet can agree that animals can experience positive and negative feelings, joy and suffering, why aren't we moving faster to greater protection under the law? I fear the answer is our own sacred text. To confront the moral issue of animal suffering and to prepare for the host of challenges that humanity is about to confront in an evolving world, we need to have an honest conversation about the shortcomings of our understanding of our ancient text. As early as the first chapter of the book of Leviticus, the most widely read book in human history, and indeed the easy reader introduction before you get to the slicing and dicing of Leviticus or the history lessons of Chronicles, we read God as saying, "Let us make humankind in our image after our likeness. They shall do, rule over, subjugate, have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the cattle, the whole earth, and all the creeping things that creep on earth." Who's the boss? We're the bosses. Any other living thing we think we understand is subordinate to those of us who stand at the very center of our own universe. By Genesis chapter 4, Abel is offering the firstling of his flock. By Genesis chapter 9, we are eating those inferior creatures to satisfy our wants. We are the ones with the soul. We are the ones who are in charge according to the will of our Maker. We are so vastly superior that remorselessly looking out for number one is all that we can imagine. Right? Right? No. Of course not. But maybe? The idea is so pervasive that we've internalized the message, even though we don't actually believe it. The belief that we, human beings, are singularly exceptional, the belief in human superiority or supremacy, undergirds our actions as a society. We do it even if we don't believe it. In the way we interact with the animal kingdom, the way we treat the environment, even in the way we interact with other human beings. That I, me, myself, am the physical, ultimate product of God's creation, the pinnacle of intelligence and ability and creativity and generative thinking is so baked into our thoughts and our actions as a society that we fail to even see how we failed. Though the evidence is all around us, physically in a burning world and emotionally in a divided and smoldering country. And our failure stems in no small part from this destructive reading of our sacred text that has been perpetuated against Jewish tradition rather than been aligned with it. What if human supremacy were never the intention? What if we were never to dominate or subjugate God's creation, but to tend it, to steward them? We see that teaching in every strata of Jewish literature. In the Talmud, we learn to make sure that our animals eat before we ourselves do, challenging the very notion of who is subservient to whom. In the Midrash, we learn that every animal, even the spider, sorry wife, has a purpose and must be cared for, as King David learns when fleeing from King Saul and hiding behind a spider's web. In the commentaries of the 16th century scholar Shmuel Edels, he opines that the Hebrew word for dog, kelev, is a contraction between two other words, kol and lev, all and heart, to teach us that we have so much to learn from Lainey. In Kabbalah, Isaac Luria teaches that every created entity possesses a soul, a spark of godliness, that not only sustains its existence, but imbues it with purpose, not just human beings, but all of creation. Instead of subjugating creation to meet our needs, and instead of relying on human supremacy as the justification for doing so, what if we were taught to partner with, to care for, to steward other creations as we meet our needs? It's an understanding that's as old as Jewish tradition itself, but it's unfortunately countercultural, reading against the way others read our text. For too long, we've understood ourselves to be the sole center of the universe, by birthright the pinnacle of creation, an ideology that caused us to remorselessly exploit those around us, and leaving us counterintuitively ill-prepared to face the future. If our only concept of what's possible is dominance by divine right, any threat to that position feels scary and destabilizing and threatening because it forces us to confront our own fallibility rather than what is actually before us. We live in amazing times. Times I'm barely even smart enough to comprehend, let alone understand. I still marvel that computers can beat human beings at chess, let alone the more complicated games of poker or Go or the video game Dota 2. And artificial intelligence proves to us that it can do so much more. AI as it exists now is not only an internet search engine, Google or Bing or Yahoo, that brings informations that others have placed on the internet, but it's now a reasoning engine, according to Sam Altman, the 38-year-old CEO of OpenAI. It doesn't need to search the text of the internet to discover what someone else wrote. It already knows that and can synthesize and recognize patterns and compare concepts and create counter-arguments and generate analogies and so much more. As any teacher will tell you right now, it's already writing everyone's term papers. AI can pass the bar exam, and I probably should have let it write this sermon too. Yes, it can make mistakes, and it doesn't recognize its own limitations. But wow, we can at least begin to imagine the amazing potential for this technology. It can map proteins down to the atom, saving the expense and labor of trying to dissect them using the most powerful electron microscopes, accelerating our ability to understand diseases and create new medicines. AI can customize learning for students' needs, offering different explanations of the same concept for different students, offering real-time feedback for the limitations of their learning. AI's ability to handle massive data sets with ease is changing how we monitor ecosystems, predict natural disasters, manage water and other resources more effectively, predict disease outbreaks, screen for cancer, and so much more. We live in amazing times. But curiously, that's not what we're talking about. Discussion of the possibilities and potential for this technology is largely limited to those who work in tech. The rest of us seem to be stuck on its potential negative ramifications. We worry about job displacement or loss caused by AI. We worry about security threats when malicious actors get their hands on this technology. We worry about the moral and ethical dilemmas AI confronts differently than human beings. This exclusive, singular focus on the negative, then on all of those amazing positive things, also telegraphs what I believe to be our real concern. Maybe, just maybe, we're not as exceptional as we thought we were. If AI can do things better, faster, smarter, then maybe we aren't the ultimate product of God's creation, the pinnacle of intelligence and physical ability and creativity and generative thinking that we thought we were. Worse, maybe all of those sci-fi stories were right, and that we now have to fear being ruled over or subjugated or dominated. It's the only thing we've ever known. Because our only lived experience of what's possible is dominance granted by superiority, artificial intelligence's threat to our privileged position feels scary to us because it forces us to confront our own failings. But what if our relationship with Lainey and her relationship with us teaches us the essential lesson about Judaism and artificial intelligence? What if, as in our relationships with animals and the environment and other human beings, human supremacy was never the intention? Instead of dominating, instead of subjugating, instead of ruling over other things to meet our needs, relying on human supremacy as a justification, we must reclaim our sacred text and the message that it teaches. Our human purpose is to tend the things in this world, to partner with them, to steward creation as we meet our needs. It's an understanding as old as Jewish tradition and one that is coming due again. Artificial intelligence is going to do untold things to improve human flourishing. And yeah, it is going to come with some negative ramifications, some of which we can foresee and others that we can't. But instead of continually wringing our hands in worry for our own future or pushing back against the advances of that technology, sorry, Lainey, that frisbee has long sailed. We have the opportunity to stay true to our values and the lessons of history by thoughtfully stewarding this creation. As stakeholders in a future indelibly impacted by AI, we have the right and responsibility to ensure the essential principles, careful regulation, thoughtful implementation strategies are being developed and implemented. We have it in our collective power to demand continuous monitoring, regularly assessing AI systems' performance so that we are not surprised. We can push for transparency and accountability from those groups working to develop this technology. We can ensure regulatory efforts balance the pool of innovation with the necessity of safety, data protection, and human-centered design. We can promote ethical guidelines in accordance with the lessons that we have learned from thousands of years of Jewish history. It starts with learning more, seeking to better understand that which we may fear. It involves advocacy and ensuring that this is a priority for those in positions of power. It changes our investment choices, how we spend our time, but it centers on living out our understanding of our sacred text, that we have so much more to gain by thoughtfully stewarding than by seeking to dominate. It's true for our relationship with animals, with nature, with artificial intelligence. It's true for our relationships with each other. We don't need to be existentially fearful because artificial intelligence threatens our top dog position. Even in a possible future where we cease to be the intellectual tip of the spear, we will figure this out, likely using AI, because that, more than anything, is the core of our humanity. Our adaptability, our emotional intelligence, our ethical decision-making, our ability to figure it out will help us to create a future where artificial intelligence contributes positively to our lives and to the essence of human uniqueness. Uniqueness, not supremacy. That hasn't worked out so well, because that was never the intention. Stewardship, partnership with all of creation. Just ask Lainey.